All right. Man, that was difficult. Sorry about the technical delay. Was trying to get the how do I move this thingy? Oh, that's not fun. Trying to get this thing so it did YouTube and Twitch together, but that was more annoying than I thought it would be. So, apologize for the delay and like the false starts a couple times, but figured it out, I think. All right. So, last week we left off with some beginnings of the domains. I started building out a couple of the domains for the objects, started writing some unit tests for them. Very basic stuff. Didn't get too far. It was going to be a lot of rinse and repeat in terms of the types of code that I was going to be writing. So I didn't feel like it was worth doing that on the stream. I kind of showed what I was going to do, why I was doing it, how it was going to be. So here we are. I will spend some time over the week. You can see I have some commits from this past week where I was working on this. And so this is pull requests that I have for the initial implementation of the domains. Yeah. So unfortunately, as you become more senior in software engineering, or like as a coder or a developer or whatever your actual title is, as you get more seniority, a lot of times you do a lot less coding than you would like. I honestly don't get to write as much code at work as I would like. And so what ends up happening is you're doing a lot of designing, kind of like what I have here, doing a lot of design documentation, writing user stories. But the biggest time I get to see actual code is typically code reviews. So I figured it was important to kind of like show code reviews and what I look for as a senior engineer. Of like, if I'm working with my teammates, I get a request, hey, here's a user story that I finished. Here's the code review. Can you look over it for me and give me any feedback or that kind of stuff? So I end up doing like way more code reviews or investigation into like future functionality, that kind of stuff, more than actually writing code on my day-to-day basis. So I kind of wanted to go through how I typically look at code reviews and what I'm looking for before I approve stuff and the types of feedback that I typically try to give. So here's GitHub. As you know, this is the project is in here. I did add some commands. So there's like, oh man, I forgot to put them in the title. But there is like a exclamation point repo, and that'll give you a link to the GitHub repo if you're curious to see it. But basically what I did is GitHub is nice if you haven't used GitHub much. GitHub provides actions. You can provide actions on your repository. And what it basically does is I've configured an action that anytime there is a pull request on the main branch or the develop branch, which is like my trunk that I'm working off of for development, anytime there's a pull request against those, there's a set of actions that will happen. So I can actually pull that up. Actually, that's not helpful. No, we'll actually just look at the file itself. So, no, not here. Go here, because I added it in here in this pull request. So if I actually go into this, where'd it go? We want to see the raw file. Okay, so in your repository, you can have this like .github folder and then a workflows, and then any YAML files that you define within here are going to be different actions that GitHub will perform based off of how you set them up. So essentially what I have here is I named it Django CI, continuous integration. If you've heard CI/CD, it's CI as in continuous integration, CD is continuous deployment. So for continuous integration, my Twitch is live and not live at the same time. Yeah, I'm trying to do like this Restream thing, but I don't know. It might be wonky. We'll just go with it on YouTube for now. That's fine. So the YAML file defines the steps that my action is going to take. So I have on pushes or pull requests to the main or development branch, these actions are going to happen. So basically you can tell it what version of Ubuntu or OS you want to run on, and then what version of Python. Now, GitHub is really nice because it gives you like templates for a lot of these, and there's actually a Django template, so it was super easy. I just had to update some of the files or update some of the lines in this file for my needs. Like it listed a bunch of Python versions that are not compatible with my configuration because of some of my dependencies. So I'm using a version of Django. I think I'm using the latest version, and it's not compatible with like version 3.6 or 3.7, which, if you're not aware, are not currently in development or supported by Python. 3.8 was the most recent one to be end of life. But these are the different steps that happen. So basically it's gonna install Python, it's gonna install the dependencies, it's gonna use my requirements txt file to install the dependencies. I'm gonna run all my tests, and I'm gonna run my black formatter against it. And essentially each of these steps will give me a check. If all the checks are good and pass, then my action will be good. So if we go back to our pull request, this is typically the first thing I look for. So that's why I kind of was talking about it is, excuse me, I can see all the actions that are happening that are associated with this pull request, this set of code. And so I can actually click on this and I can see, oh, it ran the test, it ran black, and I see, oh, it ran 40 tests, all of them passed. I can see, oh, it ran black formatter against the 34 files. There were no issues with the formatting of the files. So that means whoever developed this, they ran the black formatter, or they were the best programmer ever and didn't need it, but whatever. The black auto formatter didn't need to execute. Oh my gosh, what in the world? Why did my screen just go to do that? Okay. The black auto formatter worked and did its thing, so everything was good. So first check, as like any developer, you should be looking at the automated stuff, just making sure that it looks good. Because honestly, I know from experience, like maybe somebody's pushing something to run their automated tests, run some of these checks before they're actually like done with their development. They just want to kind of see where they are in progress to get it going. Good luck on your studying. So the next thing I typically will do is I'll just start looking through the files. So we see here it shows like 29 file changes. Some of them were some rename, like deletes, and then additions. The big thing that I'm also looking for is like make sure that we have code coverage. We see here I definitely made sure to add unit tests for my stuff, and that's really important. I want to make sure whenever I'm adding new functionality, there should be an associated test that covers the new work. So this one, this was just, I added in, I fixed the language on running the test, and I added the run black against it. Super easy. It's cool. This one, this is VS Code. It's not really important. It's really a project setting that I put in so that way it automatically runs the formatter whenever I save the file. Okay, so we see in our domains, we have an init file, and this just brings all of our domains to the top level of the domain package or module, so that way they're a little bit easier to access. Okay. Exercise domain. So as a developer, I'm looking for the type of functionality that the user is predefining here. So I see exercise domain. They're importing a bunch of different domains that we're going to use. So this one's kind of a combination, right? It's a low-level domain because I want to be able to access the records directly, but I'm also dependent on these other domains to help me figure out maybe creating records, updating records, or querying records. We see, okay, well, there's a constant. We did best practice. Our constant is all capitals, and it's defined at the top as like a class level field. Perfect. Okay, so if we watched the stream last week, I did try my best to remember to do type hinting for all of our operations, all of our methods. So you will see that, and that is something that I'm really trying to stick with. Okay, so we have a get ID by set. So this is a list of IDs, and it'll return multiple records. This one's a singleton. It'll only return a single record. This one has the opportunity to return multiple records, but it'll return it as a query set. So that's perfect. So by user ID, we see here, okay, we need a filter to make sure the ID of the user we got is valid first before we continue. Okay. If not, we're just going to return none. We're going to say they gave us garbage. We're going to give them nothing back. Okay. We also want to implement an isValidID. Okay, cool. And then here's kind of our little method that this is the main meat of the domain right now is this create exercise. So you'll see that each of the domains has their own create method for their object. I don't want to write code where the creates and the queries and the updates are all in line with like the views or the GraphQL schema or anything like that. I want to make sure that it's all in one file, so that way maybe a parameter changes on my object. I just go to that object's domain. Very straightforward, super easy to update. It minimizes my exposure in terms of where things are and looking for things. Okay, so our create, we're going to create a dummy record. This is kind of like what I like to do is best. The format that I choose is I always initialize whatever I'm going to return to none, and then I do validation as I go. And if anything fails validation, I don't create the record, and I just always return created record. So if, say for example here, we're going to validate, make sure that the movement ID that was passed in is valid and the workout ID is valid. If either one of those is valid, this if statement is going to fail, and we're never going to actually create an exercise, and return will just return none. And so that's kind of the pattern that I follow through each of the domains. Is I'm going to do validation, track anything, mark it down as like a problem, and then return nothing if that's the case. So this looks pretty good. No comments, questions, I think, from me for there. Movement domain, very similar. I'm gonna have ID set. I always like to have these two, so that way I can either get a single object or a list, depending on my use case. It'll just, there's gonna be situations where I want to get a set of everything, and so I should be able to provide a list. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Make sure my HDMI is plugged in tight. Okay. We also want to be able to filter our movements. As a reminder, movements are the actual things that you perform. So like a bench press, a squat, a deadlift, whatever. These are movements. And so we want to be able to get them by name. And you'll notice here I did an I contains. So that's a case insensitive filter on the name. So that way I'm not, it makes it a little bit more forgiving in what people are typing. Get by muscle group. We're going to filter on primary and secondary together. That'll just make it a little bit easier to find for people. A filter on equipment, movement, okay. Have an is valid, and then we have another create method. Okay, so we see here again, I'm validating the inputs, and I'm just gonna do a is valid. If it's not, I won't create the record, and then I'll just return that dummy none if the input was bad. Cool. I don't know if, so this one's a little interesting. So a choice that I made for the set domain, if we remember, go back over here. There's a couple set types, and if you're unfamiliar, I guess, set, I mean, a set is like a series, no, here it is, a collection of repetitions that a person performs in a period of time with little to no break between them. So typically a person will do a set of 5. They'll do 5 reps of the bench press before they stop and they take a break, get some water, whatever, and then they come back a minute or two later or whatnot and go at it again. So there's a couple different set types. So like a standard set, drop set, rest pause set, and then a superset. So what is this? Oh, I'm silly. We're in here. So to better support that, I thought it would be ideal to provide little helper methods for it. So that way, based on the specific scenario that we're talking about. So create a parent non-standard set. So this would be ideal for a superset. If I'm creating a superset, I want to create a parent set that's going to then be referenced by other sets. So you'll create one thing that groups them, and then you'll have two or more references to it. So you'll have, maybe you're doing bench press and a tricep exercise. Both of those make up the superset, so they each reference the same parent set, and that's what this is for. Is just tells us it ties the did I do this right? I might have just noticed something, because this has an exercise ID. For a superset. Oh wait, let me look. Create completed set, create set. Okay. So this isn't for the superset, actually. This is support for the like drop sets, rest pause sets, really. So I need to actually come in here and make another operation for supporting supersets, and that's fine. We can do that later. Let's actually go ahead and here add something just so we don't forget. Add, build out set domain to support supersets. There. So that way I don't want to forget. Okay. So then we're going to have a little function to create a helper, a template set. So template sets are for uh, template workouts that we're going to be able to support later. Create a completed set. So this is one that a user actually did. And then all of them, as you notice, you can see here, all of them are calling this create set. So this is going to be the actual one where we enter the actual record into the database. And the reason why I chose that pattern is to provide the users with a more streamlined list of parameters based off of their use case. So if I'm building a template, I know I just call the template. I don't have to remember which parameters are specifically important to writing a template set. I just see, okay, template set, here are the parameters it takes, here are the optional ones, and I go about my day. I don't have to remember every parameter that the set object takes and which ones are relevant to templates versus not, all that stuff. So by creating these little helper functions, I streamline my development and make it faster for me to recognize my use case, what I'm trying to accomplish, and what parameters are associated with that. And then they all feed into this create set. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with this, but if you prefix something in Python with like a single underscore, it's kind of noted as supposed to be a hidden method, more like internal use only, please don't use this type of thing. Python does not have the notion of private or protected like you would in Java or C++. So it's kind of a convention thing. Anything I prefix with underscore or double underscore, I should only be using it within the file that it's defined. Unfortunately, if I were to import the set domain, I could still use create set wherever I want. But it's just kind of a best practices trying to organize my code type of deal. Okay. User domain. So I don't really have much here. I don't even have a create. And the reason for that is I plan on using a third-party library to handle the user creation. But I do need a way for me to query for users. So, and make sure they're valid. So that's why I have a user domain. Workout domain, kind of same deal. Nothing really interesting. Just kind of following the same pattern as I had before. And then with migrations, I don't even bother looking at these for Django just because they're auto-created. I'm not, actively writing them or editing them. I kind of just update my models and let Django do its thing in generating that and go about my day. So that's why these are all kind of marked as reviewed. You'll notice that some of them got deleted, and the reason for that was I reset my database and tried to squash my commits. Squash my migrations. I was getting up to quite a few. So by deleting the database, deleting all my migrations, and then running migrate again, it created a more concise initial one that has a lot more stuff in it, as you can see, than it did before. That one, don't care. And we'll see, we added the exercise model, or we reordered this one because one thing I did notice that I don't know how I didn't realize before. So if anybody noticed, right, was here last week, it was crazy. I don't know what I was thinking about when I was writing this, but I had it so that a set was reference to an exercise and reference to a workout. But instead, it doesn't really makes no sense to be that way, right? Like when I think about when I go to the gym and I'm exercising, my workout consists of a bunch of exercises and the exercises have sets. Why would my workout consist of just like sets that are associated with an exercise? I'm not sure where I was going with it that way, but I did refactor this, so that's part of why the migrations were updated. Is I changed the foreign key on set to not have a tie back to the workout, but instead have exercise tie to workout. So that was one of the changes. And so that just changed a little bit of the ordering here of the imports because of dependency order. And we'll see here, added the new model or new field on the workout or on the exercise to workout, fixed some of my string representations as well. What changed here? And then you'll see, I added superset, and I removed the workout reference from the set model. Perfect. Workout. So I also added in here related name workouts. So if you're not familiar with the related name, what you can essentially do is if you have a user object, you can call, and you've called the query, you've queried the user object, you can do dot workouts in this case and get all the workouts that are associated with that user, and it'll give you that kind of iterable object. So I did delete the test file, but then I created it as a module. So now I have a test folder and all the tests are in here. So for me, what I like to typically do, I don't know why that cut out again. Maybe my HDMI cable's bad. Huh. What I typically like to do with my tests is any test that I'm writing, I will tie it back to a specific function in the the class that I'm testing. So for example, let's go back up here. Like the exercise, I have a get ID set, get by user. So you'll see in my test, I have a test for each of those operations. And I like to typically test the various scenarios. So like I'll test good, I'll test bad, I'll test multiple, and then I'll just have asserts to validate each of those. Okay. So we'll just kind of skip over the tests. I will show this. So if you're also not super familiar, one of the things that I've used typically is there's a Python package called coverage, and what you can do, is stop our server. So you can do, where am I? You can do, oh man, do this. So you can do, once you've installed it, you can do a coverage run. And basically what it'll do is it'll run your tests as expected. So if I do that, oh, because I'm in the wrong folder. There, do it again. There we go. I wasn't in the local folder where the manage.py was, so that's why that failed. But we'll come back in and we'll run coverage again. So coverage is cool. It essentially is, it checks your code coverage. It checks each line to see what code is executed within your code base. So if I actually do coverage HTML, it actually will generate this file for me so I can refresh. And you see it was just created now, this minute. And I can actually see what my code coverage is for what I have so far. So right now I have 97% coverage. Oh, that's cool. I haven't actually looked at these. But you can click on this stuff and you can see how many lines of how many statements there are, what your coverage is, how much is missing. And it gives you a better understanding or feel good. I wrote tests that executed and validated 97%. Now, I could write a test that just like calls the thing and it doesn't assert anything. So this is just telling me how many lines were actually executed during a test. It doesn't tell me the tests were actually meaningful or helpful. So this isn't a be all say all like sign off, but it does give me a good feeling. Oh, okay, at least 97% of the lines that were executable were run. And then that's where it comes in, like actually looking at the test. Do the test do something helpful? Okay, this one, I actually am calling operations and I'm doing asserts and they're reasonable in what they're trying to validate. Perfect. So, and we'll see here, we added coverage as a dependency. Let's look. Okay. So in all honesty, I think code coverage look good. My pull or my checks are good. So I'm just going to go ahead and merge this since I have the permissions to. And we don't need that branch anymore. Okay, so this was merged into develop. Perfect. So let's actually come back here. And where are we? Check out our branches. Check out, oops, develop. And we're going to do a get pull. Okay. And I'm going to delete the other branches since I don't need them anymore. And they can take up space since I don't really need them since they've been merged. They don't have anything that main or develop doesn't have. And what's nice is Git will actually recognize when a branch has commits or has details on it that the parent branch doesn't have. So it'll prevent you, or it'll give you like a little warning. Hey, are you intentionally trying to delete this? To make sure you're good. All right. So, does this automatically close? Doesn't look like it. So we'll just go ahead and close this. Move that to done. Perfect. So that's kind of how I typically like to do code reviews. Oh, oops. Now, the next thing that I really wanted to tackle was getting GraphQL set up. So we can go ahead and actually move this guy to in progress. Now, if you're not super familiar, GraphQL is another API. So let's actually pull up something. Let's do REST versus, I'm not sure why that keeps doing that. That's crazy. Here, we can look up some documentation, see what people are doing or what it kind of explains the difference. I wanted like kind of just a diagram. Man, what in the world? Sorry, I unplugged my MacBook, see if that fixes. Maybe the cable was like jostled or something. Of course it happens now that I'm actually doing something. Okay. Maybe here. Maybe this one has a little better. Not really what I'm looking for. Oh, here, kind of. So typically people like Rest. Rest is incredibly popular. It has a lot of backing. A lot of things are built on Rest. Django has a really strong REST interface. It has the Django REST framework. There's a lot of tools and packages that are built on top of it, and people love it. It's used by a lot of stuff. Has a lot of It's super popular. I think every other day I'm seeing on the Django subreddit somebody asking about a scenario with DRF, Django REST framework. How do they use it? How do they do whatever? And so REST is like kind of the default that most people use right now. During my time at Shopify, I actually learned about GraphQL. They are heavy users of GraphQL. They use it for internal, they use it for external, and become a big fan of GraphQL and its patterns. So, kind of one of the big things about GraphQL versus REST. REST, typically the developer will design various endpoints to query data from the database. So you'll have like an endpoint that says get users. You'll have an endpoint that says get exercises, an endpoint that says get sets, stuff like that. You'll have these various endpoints, and you'll have to predefine the schema to let the user who's consuming the data understand the format of what the response is going to look like. And so the user knows, okay, every time I make a query to this endpoint, here's the format that I'm going to get back. And it's very predictable. Whereas with GraphQL, you're able to essentially design the data that you want to make available for people to view, and then they're able to just like query the fields that they want. So say, for example, like here, I've defined what a project is, and I can say I only care about the tagline. I don't necessarily care about the contributors. So the user is able to write what's called a GraphQL query, and they run it against the schema that we're going to define, and the server will return the applicable data or the requested data that they want. So it's really nice in scenarios where you want to be working with like, so for our example, I'm going to define what are called nodes in GraphQL. I'm going to define a node for each of the type of models that we support. And then depending on the situation, I'm going to say maybe on some situations, I want to, sorry, where am I? Pull up my models. Maybe on some situations, I don't care about the notes. Like I'm going for a situation where I'm showing the user a list of their sets, and they don't care about the notes. Okay, for this scenario, I don't want to return the notes, or I don't want to query the notes, so I can leave it out. So GraphQL gives me the ability to like pick and choose which fields I actually want to return without always having the same format for the responses, and then building a bunch of query endpoints for my needs as for the front end. I hope that makes sense. As we go, it'll make more sense because you'll start to see how I start to build out the nodes and the functionality. So let's go ahead and clean up some of this stuff. What I'm going to be using is this library. Python has their own GraphQL library. It's called Graphene. I've used it before. I have another project. I showed it last week. I have this project that I did a while back. It's for Magic the Gathering that my friends and I like to play. And it's built with Graphene. And then Django has its own. They have bindings for Django and Graphene Django, if I spell it right. And basically they give you a nice little way to work with Django objects. You can actually use, if you've previously defined any forms in the Django templating language, or the forms object, you can actually convert those into mutations and all that kind of stuff. So why don't we go ahead and get started on this. So I don't need that right now. This is closed. This is what we want. Not what we want to do that. Click here. So we're gonna, I kind of like this feature. I'm gonna start using this more, but I'm gonna do branch off of develop, and I'm gonna prefix these with feature. Perfect. Copy that guy. Let's switch to here. Where are we? We're in our Git. Yep. Do that. Perfect. So now we're on our branch. And so we'll actually come here and we'll do Python manage run server. We can just have that running. It'll auto update, which is perfect. And we have the admin site running here. All right. So first thing first, let's go ahead and we need to install Graphene. Pretty sure it's just pip install Graphene. Yep. And ooh, it does not say that it supports 3.11, but that should be fine because we're not. I don't think we're going to be running any functionality that's what the heck 3.11 specific, so we should be okay. So let's do pip install. Actually, we can copy this, can't we? Nope, doesn't have a copy button. I'll just do the old-fashioned copy paste. Okay, and while we're here, we might as well come over here and grab this. Okay, cool. So there's our two dependencies. So let's double check. There's some specific stuff in here that we care about. So we need to update our settings. What is it? We need static files in here. We have this guy, cool. And we need Graphene Django. I don't want the extra thing. Do that. Perfect. Okay, so this is in the top level project. So in here, I believe we need to import our GraphQL. So I will kind of show this as we go, but this is, do I want it here? I forget if it goes here or not. Ugh. Did I type something wrong? Conf URLs. That's not the right thing. There. I forget if I want it here or at the top, at the project level. Oh, this is for Django. Oops. I did it wrong. I'm reading too fast. We want this guy. There. We don't want this. Helps if I read the documentation. GraphQL view as view. That's fine. PyLance doesn't know about it yet. So one thing that's really cool about GraphQL is you can have this nice little graphical interface. So you'll see here, let me see if we go to GraphQL. Whoops. I gotta actually start the thing again. Do that. Oh, okay, because we don't have a schema yet, so that's why there's nothing to show. That's fine. So we come back to settings. typically put copy this. That's fine. I think we're okay with that. Oh, the auto formatter liked it like that. And then what did I do here? I'm gonna reference my other project because I just liked I liked how I did it before, and I'm just trying to remember exactly how I set it up. Hopefully there's nothing sensitive in here. Doesn't look, I used, okay, so I don't have anything in here for this, what I'm talking about. I have these guys. But if we go here, okay, so in this project, oh, I see. I included the URLs. Okay. And then in the, so I was right. This was wrong. The GraphQL should be in here. But I haven't defined, I don't think I've defined this yet because I don't have any URLs yet. So let's actually do that. So in this folder, whoops, click this guy and we'll do urls.py. I'm just going to take this for right now as a basic. I want this. We'll do that. And we'll change this to awaken fit. Don't need this. Whoops. We'll just delete this one and we'll just get rid of this guy. We'll just keep it like that. I believe that's how I want it. Let's double check. Oh, I don't need the prefix that. And then if I come over here, I don't want this guy. Oh, that's right. What I can do is, so in the settings, I can provide like the default schema, or I can pass the schema at execution time to the GraphQL view. So that's what I did before. Perfect. So we'll actually get rid of this guy. And then from import, wait, oh geez, how did I do this? Oh, that's right. You don't have to import the thing. You just provide it as a parameter. So you can tell I haven't done this in a little bit. I haven't started like a fresh project in a little while. And so we'll do it like that, and we'll do awaken as the prefix. That's fine. Okay, so let's double check. We got URLs, we have our GraphQL. We don't have a schema yet. So before we can get much further, let's go ahead and make a schema folder. Make a, whoops, oh man, make an init in here. And that's empty. That's fine, that's fine. Oh, we actually need, we'll look at the documentation for this example. We'll just grab this guy because that's fine. We don't care. We will come here and we'll import schema and schema. Okay. So now what it's doing is from our schema package, from the init, we're going to import this guy, which is just a query that says hello. Okay, so if we reset this. Oh, because I prefixed it with API now. There we go. Cool. So you see now we have this nice little graphical interface. That's what this is called. And we can actually see from here all the schema or all the queries or mutations that are available to us for our schema. So this one, it just has a hello. And so if I come here, I can actually test in real time. I could do like hello. I think that, oh, isn't it? Yeah. Isn't it hello? What is this going to return? Oh man, you can tell I haven't done this in a little bit. Oh, okay. Oops. And then it's... What am I doing? Oh. Man, I can't remember how to do this. Is it... Oh, man. Did it give us... Oh, okay. I guess I could just look here. What did I write? Our schema takes a string hello. Default value is high. So if we should be able to just do like that, I believe. Oh, I'm so silly. Whoops. This is the variables. That's why it was freaking out at me. There we go. I was like, man, why is this not... why is he angry with me? And so I should be able to do... I think I can do this. No. Unknown argument. How does this do this? I don't really do queries like this, so okay, that's fine. We have a understanding that like we've created this, we have a schema now, and we have a basic thing that will work. So what we're gonna do eventually is we'll get rid of this this query and we'll build like our queries that we actually want. So let's come over here, and the thing we really are interested in is how we build the models. So we define the model. Okay. Not really helpful. So we want to create, oh, do we want to use object model type? What did I do before? I feel like I did object model type. Where am I? Schema. Okay, so I did use the Django object type. Okay. And that's nice because the way it works is it by default you tell it the object that you want and you tell it what fields you care about, and it'll automatically handle the resolutions for you. So let's do this. What we're going to do is I will create a schema object in here for each of the models, and that way it's all tied one-to-one. So it'll be really easy to track. I should be able to delete this. I don't need that. So we need a exercise. We need... I don't know why it keeps doing that. That's driving me crazy. Need exercise, movement. We need set, and we need workout. Okay. Nice. So that gets us the basic folders or files we need for each one. And so what I typically will do is just kind of put them side by side. And let's look. So we need, grab both of these because this is important to us. And we need from from models import exercise. Now, actually probably exercise is not the best one to start with. Let's start with movement, because movement doesn't have any related, it doesn't have any foreign keys on it. So that makes it a little bit easier to work with. So let's come here. We'll do that again. From models, import movement. From domains, import movement domain. Okay. And so we want to, this is kind of the format that we typically want to follow, is we want to name the model or these types based off of the model. Let me just, I'm pretty sure that's what I did before. Oh, I called them nodes before. And so I'll actually follow this pattern. I actually prefer the node pattern as opposed to the type pattern. So we'll do a class movement node, and it's a Django object type. Oops. And then we'll do a class meta. I'm not entirely 100% why they do it this way, but basically I'm creating this meta class that helps define how the object gets created within the GraphQL. So we'll do meta, and then the model will equal movement. And what else? We want the fields. So fields, and this is a tuple of strings, I believe. Yeah. So we want ID. What else? We want name, description. We kind of want all of them. Oops. Now, something that is to be aware of, the graphene library does something interesting with these choice fields. So these are character fields, but there are enum choices. So there's a setting or something that I need to use to like disable the conversion. So instead of it being converted to an enum, I just want it to be converted to the string and just handle it that way. So there's something I'll need to double check how I need to do that, but it is something that I'm aware of. Muscle group, especially for this one, because it has so many enums. I don't want to have all those on the thing. I'm about to lose my mind. Why is this cable bad? It has to be the cable. Okay. So what we can do now is let me actually double check. Graphene.objectType is, so I can do a class query, and it will be graphene.objectType. And what do we need to do? Okay, so what we can do is I feel like I think I'm pretty sure, let me just double check here what I've done in the past. I like to be consistent, because then it makes it easier. Okay, so it's a Django. Okay, so okay. So let's include this. This is something that is included. I like to organize my stuff like that. So group them. Let's double check how. Don't have anything in here. That's fine. Let's see. Yeah, I wrote this, 2 years ago? So I'm just trying to refresh myself on exactly how some of this works. Oh, I can provide. This is a Django object type. Okay, it's a interfaces node. Okay. Do I do it like that? And I need an import node, graphene.node. Oh, okay. So I just import. Hopefully this hasn't changed much, the library. We'll have to see. Mess around with this and see what happens. Import from graphene, import node and list. Okay, so we're going to reference load node here, and we need to provide a description. Oops. We'll fill that in a second. Okay, and then query is going to be movement equals node.field, and it will be the movement node. And then plural, oh, it's capital field. Oops. Movements. So this is like a convention thing. People typically, if you're getting a single record back, you just do singular, obviously, and then if you want to return multiple, you would do movements. And so in GraphQL, when you call a node like this, if you call on a node directly, you would use the primary key as the attribute. You would do like a select, or it's kind of like in Django, you do a movement.objects.get pk equals type of statement, and that's what this is. Whereas the other one, Django connection filter field, this one's going to give you the ability. It'd be like a regular filter statement where you're selecting ID in ID set type of situation. That's kind of the difference here. Okay, so we've defined a query, and it queries movement, and it uses the movement node. We've defined a query here. So what we can actually do is come back to this guy, and what we can do is from movement import query as movement query. So I typically will write it so that all of my schema nodes will have a query. They'll all be named query. And then within the init file, I will import them with a unique name, so that way I don't run into name conflicts. And so what I should be able to do, let me just double check this guy. Yep. So what I can do is do something like this. Object type. Yeah. Okay. So what do we need? We need all three of these guys, I think. So we're going to do that. We will create a class. No, I don't need to do that. I'll just reuse this one. And I'll use object type. I'm going to get rid of that. Create pass, right pass. And I will import, and I'll include my movement query here. Okay, whatever. As I get more queries written, they'll get included in this query guy, and it will build me out everything. So if I actually, that's saved. Let's look here. Okay, let's double check. Cannot import name from that guy. Oh, there's like a separate thing I need to install, I'm pretty sure. Where is it? Filtering. I need to install this guy. That's what I forgot. I guess I could have just copied that. What? Did I type something wrong? Pip install Django filter. Do that. That's fine. What version to install? Okay. Go back to running my server. Let's go back. We need to update our settings for that guy. We need to include Django filters. Let's include this guy here. Double check. What did we get as an error here? Query fields cannot be resolved. Setting meta.model without either meta.fields or... Did I type fields wrong? I typed field. That seems easy. Query fields. What is it yelling at me about? Is it a list? Oh man. Go here. Fields. It's a tuple. Mine's a tuple. Why is it so angry with me? Why is it so angry with me? Huh. Oh man. Let's see. What did we do before? See if I did something that I missed. Model, interfaces, description, fields. And then my query is at the bottom. Oh, wait. Fields, interfaces, model. What did we do wrong? What is it yelling at me about? Graphical schema, import schema. Fields is not none though. New class. Oh, it must be complaining that filter fields, I didn't provide this. That's probably what it is. We'll just provide these two right now. That's fine. That's crazy. I swear if it's that, I'm going to be kind of disappointed that that error message was not more helpful. What is it yelling about? What did I do wrong? Oops. I don't understand why it's yelling at me here. Was not closed. Pylance, what are you doing? Invalid syntax. Oh, because I'm silly. This is supposed to be a dictionary. Whoops. not a tuple. The other one's a tuple. This one's a dictionary. Perfect. Super weird. So if we refresh this, we'll see we have a query and we can now query movements, and it gives us these nice little functions by default for filtering. So we can filter by name, string, or the ID, the name, and if the name contains or starts with stuff. Perfect. Now, we don't have any actual data in our database right now, so there's nothing to actually query against. So what we can do is let's do this. We'll do a movement. We'll just add one. Test movement. And it's for abdominals, and it doesn't require any, and we'll do save. So if we actually come here and we do movement, and we do we can actually click on this connection node, and it will do edges node, and we can actually filter or select all the fields that we care about. So ID, name, description. That's fine. We can run that, and you can see automatically I already have access to that. So if I come back here and I actually go to test movement 2, this is a test movement, and maybe this will be calves, and it's for stretching. There. We can actually do this again, execute, boom. Automatically have access to both of the movements that we created. Super easy. And as we build out our nodes, we'll automatically get access to all of these essentially. So what I can do next, or what I want to do next, is start building these. So let's see, where are we? So let's do exercise. So we just did the movement one. Honestly, I'm just gonna copy this because this is very straightforward. I don't need to really reinvent the wheel, so there's no point me like starting over. So we'll do this exercise node. It's gonna be tied to exercise, and we're gonna fix our imports from not that guy. Import node. We want this to be exercise node, and this will be exercise, and this will be exercises. And we want to do from graphene Django.filters. Filter. Import this guy. Boom. Boom. So we want to filter on the oh, this one's not a good one because it still has workout. So we'll just keep that. So we're gonna do name, ID. Actually, let's delete these. ID, intensity, notes, and we'll do movement for now. And so what we can do, so now because we're dependent on another node, so what we can do is from dot movement import movement node, and what we can do is write a custom resolver is what it's called. And so like here, we'll go back to this guy as soon as this stops freaking out. Go back to here, and what we can do is you'll see in the filtering, we are able, where does it give an example? Maybe it's in here, or no, in here. we can see here we have get query set. That's not the one that I want, but it is kind of the same thing. Well, this is actually fields, I guess. What we're able to do is provide, I'm trying to find the example in the documentation since that's actually helpful. But essentially like this, right? We define the function, and so what'll happen is the library will look for anything that starts with resolve and the field name, and it'll call that with any parameters that were passed, and you can, that way you can do any manipulation. So we can look here at one I did before. So we'll see here I had like a face. So this is for, there's cards. Sometimes in Magic the Gathering, there's cards can have multiple faces. So it's a reference to another node, and so I resolve it and I can filter based off of that. So let's do, we don't need, you want, yeah, so we want movement equals node.field, and it will be a movement node, and then we'll do a define resolve movement, and I forget what the parameters are. I think it's just self and info in this case. Do that. Info, I believe, is, we don't need it for this. Okay. So info typically is the object that contains like the running user, who's doing stuff, that type of thing. So we don't necessarily need it for this use case. So let's come here. We actually need the movement domain to do this. So let's go here, go to this guy. Let's see, from, I like to do it this way, actually, from domains, import movement domain, and we're gonna do if movement domain dot is valid ID, self dot what are we working on here? Oh, okay. Self dot what is the field on exercise? Self dot movement dot ID. Okay, and then we will return movement domain dot get by ID self dot movement dot ID. And then if nothing, we want to return none. Pretty sure. And so what this is going to do is we are now able to find any, we'll be able to find the movements associated with an exercise. So let's come back here. Let's go to this guy. We want to do from dot exercise import query as exercise query, and we can do exercise query here. So by putting it in this query object, we automatically get it automatically gets included into our object. So if we come back here, we do go back a couple, do a refresh, we can see our query now has exercises, movements, and movements. So let's make a test exercise that we can, we'll set, oh wait, I need to set a workout. Whoops. Let's make a template workout. B for me, test workout. Save. Let's go to our exercises. The test exercise. The movement is going to be that. The workout is that. Boom. Cool. So now I should be able to come into this guy and I should be able to actually do exercises, edges, the node. What is that going to give me? So it gives me this, which gives me, so if you're not familiar with GraphQL, the way this reads is I have an exercise thing that I can filter or query. So that's here. These are the options that I can provide in the parameters. So I can provide stuff within brackets if I want to use any of these. Then the return, the object that shows up or is available within the square brackets is going to be this guy, which has a page info object. This is really nice for pagination, as it says. Obviously, it gives you like, you can click on all of these, which is great, to see where your cursor is, if there's more pages, if there's pages before this. It's really nice. From an app perspective, it helps with building those like infinite scroll type functionality because it tells you, oh, there's still more data that you can fetch, or you've run out of data. Don't try to fetch anymore. So let's go back to movement, go to edges. So now in in edges, I can see the node. So node, I'm gonna have ID for the exercise. I'm gonna have a name. I'm gonna have a description. Now why? Wait, where are we? Whoops, did I click on the wrong thing? Or did I? Oh, I messed up. You see, it's a movement connection node. Why is my exercise? Oops, I have to, helps if I actually update that properly. And it freaked out again. Let's refresh. It'll give us the updated documentation. So we have exercises, edges, node, and then we have ID, intensity, notes. And then I can do a movement, and then I can do another square bracket because I've predefined what a movement node looks like. I can have access to all of this again here. So I can do name, description. Why is this complaining? Why is this movement node? Argument. What is it? Oh man, what did I do wrong? Why am I? Because this isn't valid. Because that's not a. Let's level check. We did something right. This HDMI cable has to be replaced because it's going to make me go crazy. So let's do this. Print self. See what happens when we print self. Okay. Boom. Do we get anything? Okay, so that works, but there's something wrong with including, oh, because it's a filter field. Why is it a filter field? Node.field. What did I do? Let's look here. So let's look at this guy. Dude, this one's helpful. User node fields. Don't care about this. Nope. Nope. Does it automatically? I forget how. Let's look. Oh, okay. I see. So it's actually smart enough to give me the logic that I want out of the box. So I don't even need to do anything. So what'll happen is because I've already defined what the node is, it actually already gives me the out of the box, like the ability to render it without having to specify it, I believe. Yeah, see, man, this cable is going to drive me crazy. Because now I can do movement, and it's just a movement node, and I can do ID, name, description, and run it. And see, see now I have a little sub object, and this is all JSON format as the response for the movement, and it tells it back to that thing. And you'll notice here, this ID probably makes no sense to you. So the ID is not the Django ID. So this would be typically like 1, 2, 3, depending on the format that you're using. These IDs are something that GraphQL generates at runtime, and it's like a hash of the object name with the actual primary key number. And these are unique across your system. So the idea is that there's a way, I don't have it set up yet, but eventually I'll be able to do just like query with this ID, and it gives me, GraphQL gives you the opportunity to query any object that's been defined in the schema to search for something with that ID. And it's able to resolve that for you. So that's why you'll see here in my like what I'm referencing a bunch, there's a bunch of these ones where I provide the PK, which is actually the primary key. So it's looking at the ID itself instead of the GraphQL hashed version of the ID. Cool. So that gives us exercise and movement. Let's copy. Man, I don't know what's going on with this HDMI cable. We don't need actually any of that. So we'll just clean that up. Save. We'll do a Control A, copy, and let's go to workout. Let's import workout. Man, if it keeps doing it, I'm gonna have to stop and figure out what's the deal, because that's really annoying. Change that, workout node. Change these guys. Let's come over here. Let's look at our model. Look at our workout model and the fields that are on it. So see, we have a user now. So we're gonna have to add a user node, which is fine. Start time, stop time, template, and notes. Okay. We'll want to have a filter on user, or actually I don't think I will, because I think what I'm going to do is there's a way within GraphQL to, we saw it here actually, I can write a get query set somewhere, and it will it'll use that. And what I can do is I can here. Yeah. So what I can do is write a get query set for my node. And what I'll do is I'll use the details in info. It'll tell me the user if they're logged in. And if they're logged in, I'll filter to only return workouts or whatever that are relevant to them, their user. So that'll be helpful. Because I don't want anybody to see somebody else's information, right? So there's our workout guy. Let's come here to the init. Now, I don't think it actually matters, but I want to make sure. So I'm going to do from workout import query as workout query. And we'll do workout query here. Save that. Come back here. We should be able to see that the query now has exercise, movements, and no workouts because we forgot to do workouts. And eventually what'll happen is I have queries now. I'm going to eventually have another class called mutation, and it'll be another object. Oops. And this will define how we are going to create mutations. So in GraphQL, there's two types of operations, kind of like how in REST there's the different CRUD operations. So it'd be like get, update, delete, those kinds of things. In GraphQL, you have either a query or a mutation. A query is typically a select or a get, it's related to a get statement. And then a mutation can be any type of action that will create database edits. So this would be your deletes, your updates, those kind of operations. And there's patterns. We'll use patterns for the names. So typically I like to do the object and then the operation. So I would essentially have a workout create, and then I'd have a workout edit. And the reason for that is for grouping. As you saw in the GraphQL over here, there'll be another one. There's query here. There'll be another one called mutation. And by creating a naming pattern or naming convention for the mutations, they're all going to be grouped together. So that way, depending on the type of object or database table that you're working against, there's going to be a block within the graphical interface that shows, oh, these are all the mutations that are available to me that are associated with workouts or exercises or sets. Yeah. So that's the goal. I'm going to give it one more chance. If it freaks out one more time, probably going to have to take a little break and figure out what's going on. Hopefully this is making sense, what we're trying to do. So we should see GraphQL. Oops, did I save this? Let's refresh. Query. So now you see exercises, workouts, movements. Perfect. And we're not doing anything fancy yet with these anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to eventually add more logic to them, but for right now, this is perfectly fine. Because I'm really trying to make sure everything is in place and organized the way that I want, so that way I can then start to build more interesting functionality after that. And I need to come in and update some of these anyway with descriptions and things to make it a little bit. Oh, this is actually an interesting one. I can't use the lowercase set, can I? Set? Maybe I can. Because that is a keyword for, so we'll see what happens actually. So a set is going to be ID, and we'll reference exercise, and let's delete these other ones. Sequence number, completed reps, min reps, max reps, weight, duration, man, set type, and parent set. Okay. I don't think we made any sets over here. Nope. So let's make a set so that way we can see sequence number, completed reps. We'll do 100 and we'll do 1000. It's impossible, but cool. Standard set, perfect. Why is it I thought I fixed this. It can be null, but I guess it can't be blank, so that's why it's getting angry. That's one thing that I always hate, and I can never remember what the heck the actual thing is supposed to be. Python manage make migrations. Okay, and then we'll come back here and we'll run the server again. Oh, set has no attribute workout. What? Set has no attribute workout. Oh, because it's supposed to be exercise. Whoops. I forgot about that. Oh, I didn't. Oh. 100, 1,000. The 1,000 doesn't even mean anything because we haven't set up what weights are. Or like what the measurements are, because in my opinion, what I'm going to do for the weights is it's going to be based off of the user. So this user is going to enter an arbitrary number, but it'll be configured on their profile. So that's why the mat number doesn't really mean anything right now. So query, we see exercise, workout, movement, and we forgot to include this. So let's come here. Schema from set, import, query. And we'll make this one last. Do that, do this. And we see sets. Okay. So which is the let's look. We should be able to query everything through a set. So let's do that. So we can just show the full thing. So if we do a set, edges, go away, node, and we want the ID, we want the exercise, and within exercise we want ID, intensity, and we want movement, and within movement we want ID name. Okay, so let's go back. We are back on the set. The set is tied to an exercise. Exercise has a movement. Oh, we forgot to do something. I was like, that doesn't make sense. We forgot to add workout to the exercise object. So we need to come here and add workout. I thought we were missing something. I thought something looked funny. Okay. So if we query set, edges, node, exercise. Exercise now gives us a workout. So we can do workout, and we can do ID start time. You'll notice here immediately, or maybe not immediately, but even though my field over here for workout is defined with snake case with the underscores between the names, GraphQL doesn't like that, and they convert it to theirs with the camel case starting with a lowercase. And so yeah, so we can see here we queried against sets. We got the set ID, the exercise, the movement associated with that exercise, the workout. So actually, did we actually query anything against the set? The ID, let's do completed reps and wait. Run it again. Cool. So we see the extra stuff and all the related fields. So GraphQL is really nice that it gives us that ability to build these dynamic queries, because this query is executed at runtime. And so I can just change this as I want. So eventually on the front end, I'm going to write it so that like some views I'm going to query for more details. Some views I'm going to query for very specific things. But because I know the structure of the data available to me, I can query for whatever is relevant to me at that time, depending on the screen I'm showing the user. I don't have to always have every single field available, if that makes sense. Which is one of the huge, in my opinion, advantages that it has over something that the way REST handles it. But I think that is a pretty good stopping point, actually, since I'm having technical issues too. I think I'm going to stop with that for today. And I'll work on this a little bit offline, and we'll get back on next week and keep going. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week.